inception of the movie and wanting to make a new version of the Turtles?
Yeah, I mean, we grew up. I grew up loving Ninja Turtles. The original cartoon came out when I was probably 8 years old or something like that. The movie came out when I was around 10 years old, and so I was really like the target audience for this. I was obsessed with it. My dad would go to garage sales and buy all the toys, and I loved the aesthetic of it and the energy of it. They were kind of punks and countercultural. They loved pizza and they lived in the sewers. It was kind of like a gross, dirty, grungy world, which I was very drawn to. And honestly, like, it was like a joke I would make anecdotally among my friends, which was always like to me, like the teenage part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was weirdly always like the kind of most fascinating element. And as someone who got their start on like a high school TV show, and the first movie I made was a high school movie, and I was always very like drawn to like the teenage genre. It always just seemed like a way into the Ninja Turtles that really focused on the fact that they were teenagers. They've never been voiced by teenagers ever, so like that idea was really exciting, and really leaning into this like coming of age kind of high school energy was something that was just felt new and original, and like a movie that I would be excited to see. Yeah.
Jeff, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of how you thought about the visual language of the movie, sort of in conjunction with Seth's idea of making it really about these teenagers.
Yeah, we were really leaning into making this a teen movie, and we wanted to pick a kind of like visual like North Star that was going to guide the way that we made the film look. Like the Spider-Verse films tried to make their movies look like moving, living comic books. And the Turtles they've been a comic, they've been an animated TV series, they've been a live action film. We needed something unique and specific to this story, and we started looking at teenage drawings, like the kind that you do when you're 15, 16 years old, in the margins of your notebook. And there was a day when we had all of the artists, like incredibly talented, like professional biz dev artists, to bring in the drawings they did when they were 15 years old, and we did like a review and looked at them, and they were so bad, but they're like really passionate, and like you couldn't tell a 15-year-old that it's a bad drawing, because like they're like, I am drawing the best monster truck that's ever been done in the history of this, and there's something about the undiluted expression that you get before you've gone to art school and had your kind of innate choices trained out of you by what's right and what isn't.
That's so great. Seth and James, can you talk a little bit about casting your turtles and finding these kids to bring them to life?
We knew we needed to sort of focus on the teenage aspect, because that felt like the freshest version. And then we made a few movies in this space, with younger people. A movie called Good Boys a few years ago, and so we knew that like we just had to get kids reading the scenes. And so it really just started with like who would be the right voices for each of the characters, and we really just had a very, very like extensive casting process. I mean, Seth and Evan sort of did that on Superbad, and you can see for that a little bit, but like just getting out to sort of as many people as possible was really the most important thing to start.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. And it's not only about finding four funny kids, but four funny kids who are funny together specifically, and who interact well together, and who you both believe have known each other their whole lives, and have similar rhythms and sensibilities, and and capturing that energy was really like imperative to the tone that we were trying to get across,
Well, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, sort of how you did, because it was sort of an unconventional way that you did the recordings, and so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you orchestrated that, and Rose, maybe you can also speak to what that was like.
I've been in so many of these movies. I honestly don't know how many. I made maybe 15 of them, honestly, something like that. And I have never even met the people who are in the movie with me most of the time. I think I'm in 4 Kung Fu Panda movies. I've never seen Angelina Jolie in real life, like ever. Like you sit simply do not get to interact with these people. And when we're making our normal comedies that are live action, the whole magic comes from the interaction we have with each other. When we made Superbad and Pineapple Express, in every movie, it was always about getting the people together and having them play off each other and having them interact with each other and interrupt each other and fight for attention like you do in real life with other people. And so that was the idea always from the get-go, was like, what if we recorded all of them together? And then we wrote the scenes, and we're 40-year-old people writing scenes for 13-year-olds, and we would get them all there together and they would record it and it would be okay. And then I remember the first recording session, we would record and we were recording, they were all there together, and I'm like, it's pretty good, it's just, maybe it's missing a little something. And then there was like a little tiny kitchen where like they had all the snacks and the coffee and shit like that, stuff like that. And all the kids were like crammed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I taught those kids a lot of things. And they were all, there was like a little tiny like banquette, like a little booth, and like all four of them were like crammed in there. And they were just like talking, excuse my language, mad shit to each other, and just like screaming at each other and clowning each other and shoving phones in each other's faces and making videos, showing them videos and mimicking the videos, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And I remember going back to Jeff, who was in the recording booth, and being like, this is what we have to capture. Like, whatever they're doing out there, like, that's the movie. And so we brought them back in, and we were like, just improvise everything. Like, throw out the script, don't say the words we've written, the scene is you're sneaking in and your father has caught you, go. And they would improvise for 40 minutes, and 35 seconds of that was usable. And painstakingly reassembled, and that is how we made the movie. But then to that end, we would always try to have as many people together as we could for all the sessions.
Yeah.
And I think Rose was probably the biggest one we had, right?
Yes, yeah, I came in for Seth was like, just come in, we're just gonna do like the kids will be there. I was like, really? Wow, because that's your point. Like, I've never done a voiceover job where you're actually with the person, you just didn't, you never meet them. And then all of a sudden, it was like a roller coaster. I got in and Seth just stood at this dais and was like, and I was like, whoa, strapped myself in, and then he just went, bam! Everybody started talking at the same time, and I was like, this is unbelievable.
It really was, yeah. I think there was, because also like, exactly, there was, I think, it was all the turtles, it was you, Natasha Demetrio, who's the bat, I think Ice Cube might have been zooming in also as well. Yeah, and it was like, well, because also, it's like we were trying to establish a comedic dynamic between all these mutant characters, and like you can write it, or you can get, and like what you would normally do in a movie is get all these comedians in the room together, and they would establish their own dynamic, and they would start to kind of wrestle for their joke, and that's what we did in the recording process, and I think that's why it feels so like alive, and it feels like they're all in a room together really interacting, and that it's because they are in a room together all interacting.
Jeff, from the animation end, how do you think about capturing that energy when you're sort of animating it then?
Yeah, I sleep it's a night.
Yeah.
No, it was something we watched a lot of movies. Like Attack the Block was an early inspiration, and just like the kids in that movie are so like constantly like hyped up and jumping off of walls. And there's something about when you're like 15, 16 years old and you just have like limitless energy. And we knew we wanted the turtles to be really physical and always touching each other and leaning on each other and messing with each other. So we had to put that into the animation, and we had to cover it in a way where it's a lot of four shots, and it's a lot of four shots without cuts, which is really technically demanding because an animator doesn't just have to animate one character, they have to animate 4, sometimes 8, 12. There's a lot of really demanding shots.
There's some shots where there's like 13 characters talking simultaneously. Yeah, it's insane. That's really hard.
It's a lot to ask, but we tried to cover it in this way that invited the audience to feel like you're a fly on the wall, hanging out with them and watching them bond with each other.
Yeah, I did want to ask about like animating and building your craziest ideas for the mutant Superfly at the very end.
Yeah. That was I think I forget where the idea originally came from. It might have been Evan's idea, but we just had one of our artists draw that thing one day. It was like, oh, what if a bunch of animals got mixed together with mutagen? I don't know, probably won't be in the film, just draw something crazy. And then he drew that, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, we need to like rewrite the movie to make sure this is in here, because this is unhinged.
Yeah. And then I remember we brought Ice Cube in to do the recording session, like, as the Mega Mutant, and it was one of the funniest, like, he could not have embodied it more. Like, he was stomping around the studio, it was wonderful.
I just like showed him like images of it and was like, comment on your body.
Yeah, like describe yourself.
Yeah.
He's like, I got wings and giraffe-y.
Anyone who wants to speak to it, can you speak to getting the Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross score and sort of getting them on board?
I still don't know.
It was really scary. I can say, like, me and Jeff, we thought they're the best. It'd be great if they would do the movie. And we
called over to their house.
We offered it to them.
I've never met them. Only the two of them have met.
Yeah, me and Jeff were the only people who worked on the whole movie that ever talked to them or met them in person. We went to their house. Which was crazy. We didn't think they would want to be with us at all, and they were luckily big fans of the other films that we had both made, which was fantastic. And I remember it was very intimidating. I grew up like I would wear like a 9 Inch Nails t-shirt like every day in high school, literally. Like I was obsessed with 9 Inch Nails, and I've seen them in concert like many times. Like I'm obsessed with them. And I remember Trent, we sit down, and it's very scary, and Trent goes, "So why do you want us to score this movie?" And I had no, I didn't know what to
I had his t-shirt when I was 9.
Yeah, exactly. And then Jeff gave the most beautiful answer I've ever heard. And it was amazing. You were like, you play notes I've never heard before. You had meaning to things I couldn't imagine. You elevate the material in a way that's
I went into like a fugue state.
You really did. I was like, go. And like, you really just, and also it was like blatant flattery, which I wouldn't assume that would work on such like grim guys, but like as you were doing it, I'm like, it's working. Like they like flattery, and it was all true. And then I remember they like didn't say anything, and we left, and we drove there together in my car, and we got in my car. We were just like, did that work? What happened? And we got a text from them like a minute later, being like, cool, we're in. When do we start? And it was mostly done over text.
Yeah. They would just send us music, and then we'd get it at like 1 a.m. and we'd be screaming because it's the coolest thing we ever
Me and
heard.
Jeff would be texting each other separately and just be like, ah!
Our notes were like, this is amazing!
Yeah. Every note was just like, the greatest thing I've ever heard!
Speaking of getting like incredible people to be in the film, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, obviously you had to find the kids, but assembling the rest of the cast. I mean, Rose, what is your reaction to saying I want you to play Leatherhead?
And do a borderline derogatory Australian accent.
I'm delighted, I have 2 small boys. I was like, I'm gonna get some points. And I knew Seth's take and Jeff, and would be so extraordinary and irreverent, and and then when Seth pitched me what he wanted me to do, I was like, okay.
I guess I'll do it.
More, just
More
going
Australian.
I don't want to stand it. Just go for it. It's like really broad, and then I was like, right, I'm doing my Eric Bana. I'm going for it.
You went full Eric Bana.
Russell Crowe, I was getting in there, I was going for it. And I remember when I saw the drawing, I was so tickled. I was like, oh my god, that is hysterical. There's something so unique about the characters and to how you guys have been speaking about it that is like very, really touching. So I was delighted. Yeah.
We had the idea to get Paul Rudd for Mondo Gecko, and so we went and we were speaking to him and his agent, and and they were kind of like, yes, Paul will do it, but he has one caveat. You have to credit him as and introducing Paul. So we knew we were like, okay, we're making the right movie, and Paul will do
Yeah.
it.
And the biggest one, though, honestly, to me, is like, we couldn't find the right voice for Splinter. And it was like I would talk to my wife a lot about my work problems and my frustrations, and I'm also obsessed with Jackie Chan. And I would literally, like, every night be like, we just can't find the right Splinter. Let's watch Police Story again for the 50th time. And one day she was like, what if you try to get Jackie Chan to be Splinter? And I was like, he would never do that. And we brought it up to everyone, and everyone's like, I don't, like, that's perfect, but I don't think he'll do it. And then we offered it to him, and he said yes. And we would have to wake up at 2 in the morning, because he was in Hong Kong, and we record from like 2 to 6 a.m. basically, and it was amazing. And it was true, like, I think he's like the funniest living person. Like, I view him as like a Buster Keaton, like Charlie Chaplin-esque, like, there's no one who does what he does and is as funny as he is funny, and like the timing he has developed and like the physical comedy he has cultivated is like unmatched. And so, and just his voice is fine. That's what's also amazing about it, is you strip all that away from him and have him just talk into a microphone, and he's as funny as anyone. And it really was like, for me personally, like the fact that I got to interact with Jackie Chan while making this movie was like truly one of the greatest things. No offense, Rose. One of the greatest
It's like iconic. That's like, I can't believe it.
In that flashback sequence, you got to animate the baby turtles, who are extremely cute. Well, thank you all so much for being here. It was